couple of housekeeping things. One, something is really bright. Can we fix those maybe by chance? They're a little too much. Is this what it is? I don't know. One of them's crazy. I can barely even, I still can't. That's a little better. Can you still see me? I don't want it dark, right? Second thing that I want to say is I appreciate the lights. You'll figure that out. Second thing, I need a symbol, like a little signal that I can do with my hand to let you know, hey, fix the lights. I don't know, so I don't have to stop and say it. Second thing I want to say is, give me a little bit of grace today, okay? I'm a little out of practice. I hadn't done this in a while. I hadn't been up in front of people for a while. I'm a little nervous. I don't know how all of you are going to kind of respond to me and whatever else. So, so give me a little bit of grace. I'd appreciate it. This could go really poorly. It could go great. I don't know. We'll kind of see how it goes. Thank you. I appreciated that. You can do it. Right. Good. Thank you. The third thing I want to say is kind of moving away from that. So the third thing I want to say is I am excited to be back. And I'm excited about what I learned and the things that I saw and witnessed and were a part of over the past couple of weeks. And I mentioned it last week, and I want to mention it again this week. We have our board meeting on Tuesday night. As a part of this body, you are always welcome to attend those board meetings. You can just... It's nice if you let us know, because sometimes there's food, and then we want to make sure we have enough food for you. There's rarely food, but if that helps you show up, then some snacks maybe. There are some snacks usually, but if you're always welcome to attend those. But we are specifically this one gonna go through a lot of what I had kind of experienced and seen, and some takeaways, and then some bring homes for us. And so you are welcome to come and attend that board meeting. All that I ask that you do is you let me know, because I am sending out a bit of like a document that kind of has some information to kind of read through ahead of time. Otherwise, you'll come in cold and you won't really be prepared to kind of talk and discuss and be what part is going on. So if you would like to come, let me know, and I will send that to you, and we'll look forward to seeing you Tuesday night at, I'm not even sure, 7 o'clock, I don't know, 7 o'clock. And I would have seen it on my calendar and just been, I have to be here at that time, right? I would have checked the email that Karen sends out, and probably a board meeting or reminders on that. But anyway, so you're more than welcome to come. So enough of that out of the way. I want to get into kind of what we're kind of here for, what you came for today, not to hear me ramble, talk about lights and whatever else. But I want to get into kind of what we're here for today. So if you've been around here for any length of time, or if this is your first Sunday, or if you've only been here for less than a year, you probably don't know this, but I want to let you know. There are a couple things that I like to do around here, that we do around here as a church. And one of them is every fall we talk about stewardship. We talk about, how we handle, how we manage what we do with the things that God has given to us. Whether that is our time, whether that is our talent, whether that is our treasure, whether it is ourselves, well, what do we do with those things? And it's stewardship. How do we handle, how do we manage those things? The other thing that we like to do, or one of the other things that we like to do, is we like to have an all-church series every year. And this is where our small groups, every small group, from kids to teens to adults, the kids are downstairs learning about it right now in children's church and so on and so forth, and then the teens and the adults, we all study the exact same topic, which kind of aligns with the Sunday morning message. And we do that intentionally so that we have an opportunity where we're specifically talking about at least once a year, how do we make disciples? How do we encourage you to be the kind of a disciple that Jesus has called you to be? How do we help you become that person? And so that's really kind of why we do that. And so this is the first year in all my years of doing this, so this is like 7, I think, or 8, whatever, how the math works out, I don't know. This is the first year where those two have kind of intersected and come together. And so on Sunday mornings, and then in every small group, we're talking about stewardship, and we're talking about stewardship that we normally do once a year, doing it all in small groups. And then here's the title of the series. Here's what we're talking about, is Money Matters. Like you've seen that, the little bumper and whatever else. And I don't want you to read that as much as in like, well, money matters. Like it's really, really important. Like that's one way to read that, right? When there's no punctuation, you're like, how do I read that, right? I don't want you to read it as it's really, really important, but rather we're going to talk about things regarding money. We're going to discuss things regarding money. That's what we're talking about. We're going to talk about money matters, right? Matters that pertain to money, right? You get the difference, right? I can move on, right? So that's what we're doing. And before you get all upset, because every time somebody talks about it in the church, like we're going to talk about money, you're like, why did I show up today? This was the worst one ever to show up. We're doing it a month, so you have to avoid us for a month, right? But that's always the thing. Why is the church talking about money again? And I want to help you understand that. I want to give you. Am I shouting? Am I yelling? Slow down. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to take it. I told you a little bit. I'm going to take it down, and I'm going to slow down. All right? Before you get all upset, why is the church talking about money again? I just want to be very, very clear. The reason that we talk about money is because the Bible talks about money. So we're going to talk about something that the Bible talks about. That's just what we do. We're Christians. We follow that. That's our worldview, right? But the reason the Bible talks about money, and here's the part I want you to get. The reason the Bible talks about money, I think, isn't so much because God cares so much about it. It's because we care so much about it. Money is really, really important to us. Money controls almost all of the decisions we make day in and day out. Everything you do I have the money to go do this? Is this in the account for me to go buy this? Can I go on this vacation? Do I have enough money to buy the whatever else? So much of what we do, when I go to the grocery store, this one's $8, this one's $4, I'm going to get the $4, right? So much of what we do, I usually don't look at the price, I get the $8 Melanie fusses at me, but so much of what we do is about money. It's really, really important to us. And so that, I think, is why God talks about it, because he said, I know this is going to trip them up. I know this is going to be an issue for them, so I'm going to talk about a lot about money. It's because we care about it and he cares about us. So listen, so what I'm doing through this series is talking, and hopefully sensibly, about something that you already care about. I'm just talking about something that is already influencing your life, and I'm just trying to help it so that it doesn't influence your life so negatively. And that you're in control of it rather than it being in control of you. Well, what we kind of want you to realize, and we kind of mentioned this, Pastor Macy mentioned this last week, was, every financial decision you make kind of it reflects your spiritual state. That means that what we're saying in that is that God isn't just concerned with what we call the tithe, the 10%. If you've been around church, talk about that, make sure you give your tithe, right? Talking about the 10%. But God is concerned about what you do with 100% of what you have. He's not saying, hey, I only want the 10%, whatever you want to do with the 90, no questions asked. That's not the way that he's treating it, right? And so that means that where you spend your money, what you spend your money on, it means where you vacation, and so on, all of these things, every dollar that goes out of your pocket, out of your account, is a telltale sign of your relationship or lack thereof with Jesus. What you do with your money is a direct expression of your level of faith that you have in him. Whether you trust him, whether you don't, direct reflection of that. And so what I want to help you do in this series, so I hope you hear this. Don't hear anything that I'm not saying. I want you to hear this part right here, and then I want you to hear the rest, but I want to make sure you hear this. What I want to help you do in this series is I want you to gain better control of your money. That's what we want to do. Not so that you'll give more, not so that our budget can go up, but so that you can be the disciple of Christ, so that you can steward well what God has asked you to do. Because regardless of whether or not you have that biblical worldview, he's trusting you with something he wants to see if you can handle it. And so I want you to have better control of your money. I want you to be in control of what it does rather than it being in control of what you do. I want you to be better off financially. Not because richness or wealth is a sign of salvation, or not because it's even a sign of godly blessing, but because God wants us in every way to be free. And that includes financially. And the reality is very few of us are free financially. And so Ron Blue kind of talks about these 5 stages of life where we all are, right? And here's the slide that's going to show that: struggling, surviving, stable, secure, surplus. We find ourselves likely in one of these 5 stages in life when it comes to finances. Some research suggests that as many as 3 out of 4 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 3 out of 4 Americans, 75% living paycheck to paycheck. I'm not going to ask you and divide you in the room accordingly, and if you're in the other 25, you can leave early. We're not going to do any of that. You have to sit here through all of it, right? And so 3 out of 4 Americans living paycheck to paycheck. Second stage, like we think we've made it. Second stage. Then there's this huge gap between surviving and stable. Nearly half of all Americans have either no savings or a savings account with no more than $500 in it. And then only 25% of Americans have more than $2,000 saved up. That's not a really great financial place for us to be. So where, you don't have to raise your hand, you don't have to tell me, unless you want to later, don't tell me now, right? But where are you on that list? I could probably guess where you want to be. Like, nobody looks at that list and go, man, if I could really be struggling, that's where I'd like to be, right? Nobody said that, right? You can answer that one, I doubt it. But what does it take to get to wherever it is you want to be? I guess I'm pretty sure we want to be 4 or 5 probably, right? What does it take to get to that level? How about just to get to the next one? How about just to move from struggling to surviving? How do I get to that level? What does that take? Because the reality is you've been trying that your whole life. And you might not have moved off of the first level yet. So what we're doing doesn't work. What we're doing isn't working. And so that's why we kind of got the 4 principles that we're talking about of the 4 weeks of this series. Last week was the first one. Here's the 4 of them in here so you know where we're going each week. And I want you right now, don't look at it and go, I'm pretty sure I know what he's going to talk about, so I'm not going to show up next week or the following week. You don't, because it's not what you think, I think. I think it's not what you think, right? You see what I'm saying, right? I told you I'm a little rookie at this. I don't really know. We'll figure it out, right? I have learned 3 pages in, I need to stick to my notes. We're not doing that, right? But here's where last week we kind of have this idea is that you have to learn to spend less than you earn. Like you can learn that. You can learn to spend less than you earn. It doesn't come naturally for us. We just like to spend what we have, but you can learn to spend less than you earn. You will never get ahead by spending more than you make. You never will. It's just impossible. You never ever will. You will never get ahead financially by spending more than you make. And then closely tied to that idea is what we're going to cover this week, and this is number 2, is debt and avoiding debt. And this is kind of a sensitive topic because there are a lot of thoughts and a lot of opinions about debt, and then there are a lot of other beliefs and practices about debt. And sometimes there doesn't seem to be commonality across the board. For instance, everything around us says that debt is normal. So much of what's around us says that debt is normal. So much so that many people view debt as a rite of passage into adulthood. I got a mortgage, I'm finally adult now, whatever like that. What debt is, it's just something that we have come to expect and something that we just accept. Everyone has a car payment. Everyone has a mortgage. Everyone carries a balance. And no one bats an eye at any of it. It's just the thing that we do. We're told that debt is progress. We're told that debt is a strategy. The financial world calls it leverage. When you have it, you can make it work for you. Marketers call it financing your dreams. You can have what you want. Retailers say, take it home with you today for 4 easy payments. Like you can finance almost anything. And you probably shouldn't just because you can. We hear over and over again that debt is a valuable tool. Use it to build credit. Use it to buy more. Use it to get ahead. Debt enables us at almost any moment of your life. At almost any moment of your life, debt enables you to increase your standard of living. You could go out today and better what it is that you're driving. More than likely. You could go out today and improve what it is you're driving. You can improve your status because you have a better car. It's just a moment's notice with very little stuff. You can improve where you vacation. You can improve where you live. You can improve what you live in. You can improve what's in what you live in. And all you need to do any of those things is your signature. And they will make your life better. Right? That's what they tell you. That's not what I'm trying. That's the part you heard. Just sign it, my life's better. That's the part you heard. Go back and listen again. I don't think that's what I said. But it sounds really, really appealing. It sounds like that's the way that we get ahead and stuff. But is it really? And then we kind of go, well, it has to be because the people tell us that it is. And the banks wouldn't lie to us. The government wouldn't lie to us about stuff like that. But here's what I want you to think about. And here's the other side of that. Here's what I want you to think about. A few years ago, Forbes magazine wrote an article, and they were talking to the 400 richest people in America, 400 richest Americans. And they asked them some questions about building wealth. 400 richest Americans in the United States. That would be Americans, right? 400 richest Americans in the United States, right? And 75% of them said avoiding any and all debt is a primary strategy for building wealth. 75% of them. Primary strategy, avoid debt for building financial wealth. That means that in a world where we're told to accept debt as a normal part of life, the wealthiest people say, that's not the best way to live. But everywhere else we're told, no, that's what you have to do. Now, are they rich because they had more money to begin with? Don't answer, because I'm going to answer that in a second, right? Are they rich because they had more money to begin with, or are they rich because they managed their money well and they didn't borrow against their future for something today? We're told over and over and over again that it's because they were already rich. But when that's when we believe, when we're told that, well, they were already rich, then what that does is that puts it out of reach for us. It's us admitting defeat. It's us saying that we really can't control our wealth because we're always at the whim and the wish of someone else. That's what we say. There's nothing I can do. It's just the way that it is. What I got is what I got, and that's all I'm ever going to get. And so there's no use, and so we don't even try. But let me tell you, and you may not know this, this may be the first time you've ever heard this in your life. You have control over whether or not you sign that dotted line. You have control whether or not you swipe that card. That's all on you. You did that one way or another. And those things, when we do those things, they put us in poor financial situations. That means that maybe, just maybe, when we understand it this way, when we understand we have some responsibility in what we do, that means just maybe that they're rich because they don't give away large amounts of money every week and every month. Like, do we ever think about that? It sounds really simple. Like, here's the simple part of it, right? You'd have more money if you didn't give so much away to your bills every week, every month, right? Wouldn't you? I say that to Melanie all the time. We'd have more if we stopped paying this bill. And it's going to be 3 or 4 months before they cut the power off. Like, we got a little bit of wiggle room. But we know that. That's just true. We'd have more money if we didn't spend so much, if we didn't send it out, but we can't seem to make that connect. We go, they're rich because they've always had it. We're poor because that's just the way it is. No, we're poor because we spend so much on all kinds of stuff. That's the part I want us to kind of understand. And so the world says that it is normal and necessary. This is just what you do. This is just part of life. You're going to have it. And what's more, just to make sure that we'd want to be a part of it, they made it a competition. Right? I don't know how to say the word F-I-C-O. Is it FICA or FICO? I still don't know. What? FICA. But it's FICO, right? FICO, whatever. You know what I'm talking about, right? What is it? It's a FICO score. So now it's a competition. Now it's a game we all want to play, because who likes to be a loser? Nobody. I want to win that game. How do I win that game? By let me increase my debt. I want my FICO score to go up, and then they help us. Hey, let me help you raise your score by doing this and doing this and doing it. Right. But that's the normal. That's the way that it is. But is it really true? Is it really what it has to be? So I think we need a better perspective on debt, right? Because what the world tells us is inconsistent, doesn't seem to make sense. I can't apply it into what I've got going on. So we need a better perspective. We need a shift in our mindset. We need to change what we're listening to. We need to change what we believe. And we need to change what it is that we're doing. And the Bible, you knew I'd get there eventually, I hope. You thought I would. But the Bible offers that new paradigm, gives us that different perspective. The Bible is full of information regarding personal finances and even talks a lot about the use of debt. And every time it does so, every time it mentions debt and talks about it, it's never good. It is not ever good. Maybe not salvation issues, we can talk about that if you want to, but it's never good. It uses words like slave for those who are in debt. It uses words like fool for those who are in debt. It uses words like a curse upon you for those who are in debt. Those aren't words that we want to be said of us. Even if you're not a person who believes in the Bible, or you don't have a biblical worldview, and nor do you want a biblical worldview, let me tell you this. If you had been adhering to what the Bible says about money for your entire life, then you would be better off right now. Because it's not biblical advice. Hear the whole thing. It's not just biblical advice. It's practical advice. It's, hey, this stuff works if you'll just do it. And so we're going to look at a couple of the verses this morning, and then you're going to look at the rest of some other verses kind of this week in your groups and so on and so forth. And I want to say in the remaining minutes, but that's not true. I'm halfway through, I think. So here's the first one, right? Proverbs 22:7. It says, "The rich rule over the poor. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender." Solomon writes this, wisdom of Solomon from the Lord, right? Wisest, wealthiest man ever. He looks at the world around him, and he says that anytime you owe someone to something, whether it is an individual, whether it is an organization, whether it is a nation, whatever, anytime you owe something to someone, they become, at least in some capacity, a slave to whoever it's indebted to. When you owe someone, you're a slave to whoever it's indebted to. Right? And part of that we kind of get and we understand. Whether it's debt that you got into willingly, I signed that out of line because I wanted something nicer, or whether it's, which is probably the case for most of us, keep your hands down, I don't need to know, or whether it's debt that you found yourself into accidentally because something tragic and unforeseen happened to you. It doesn't matter how you got into it, you know the truth of this verse. The rich rule over the poor, the borrower is slave to the lender. That verse is absolutely true. In every debt situation, there is a master and there is a slave. There is someone who is in charge and there is someone who is not. And when you sign their dotted line, they are the master. They call the shots. You are the slave. You do as you're told. That's the relationship you willingly stepped into. Hey, I want you to be over me. And I'm going to drive this car that I'm going to pay all kinds of extra money for. We'll get to that in a minute, right? And it's going to break down, and I'm going to hate it. Somebody's going to hate it tomorrow. And then every time the bill arrives, whether it comes to your mailbox, or it comes in your inbox, or it's an auto draft, whatever it is, every time the bill arrives, you are reminded that someone owns you. And every time you write that check, you hit submit, whatever it is you do, every time you send that payment, you're acknowledging, I'm not free. You're saying, you're right, I do belong to you. That's the life we've chosen? As normal and acceptable? It shouldn't be. Anyone who's ever had debt knows that this verse is absolutely true. This is how so many people live. But it is not how God intended us to live. It's not what he wants for us. That's not how he wants us to be. God has always been in the business of setting people free. That's what he does. He freed Israel from Egypt. He freed Daniel from the lions. He freed Paul and Silas from prison. He still frees people today. Not just from sin, but from the systems that enslave us. In Luke chapter 4, when Jesus gets up and he's speaking at the temple and he reads from the book of Isaiah, he says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Jesus says this. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, to set the oppressed free. So he came to set some people free. Debt does not have a prison cell to hold you hostage. There is a prison cell, I think, if you don't pay it. But debt does not need a prison cell to hold you hostage. Debt doesn't have to rattle chains around your ankles for you to know that you're trapped. What it feels like for us is the feeling in the pit of your stomach every time you walk to the mailbox or open your email. What it feels for us is the tension in your marriage and in your relationships. What it feels like for us is the sleepless nights wondering how you're going to make ends meet. That's how we know. But here's the good news. The same Jesus who breaks spiritual chains can break financial ones too. It's just kind of part of what he does. Now hear the rest of this. Jesus can break the chains. Absolutely. I don't want you to think for any reason you can walk out of here that I don't believe that 100% wholeheartedly. Jesus breaks these chains in our lives, but he will not balance your budget for you. You have a role to play. You have a responsibility. The setting free is what he does. You balancing the budget is what you do. God has the power to break you free, and then he gives you the wisdom to stay free, if you'll ask for it. So it's time to start making a financial plan for freedom. Set free, now let's plan to stay free. Here's what we need to do, right? There is a moment of freedom, and then there is a life of freedom. God delivers people, and then God develops people. Like, how many ways do I need to say that so you understand that, right? You get that, I can move on. Ooh, I didn't get a lot of responses. You get that, I can move on, right? Yes. Breaks you free, then wisdom, right? Delivers, but then develops, okay? All right, good. That's what a plan does. It helps you move from being set free to actually living free. And this brings us to another thing that Solomon wrote. Proverbs 21, a little bit before the last one. It says this: the plans of the diligent bring plenty, as surely as haste leads to poverty. Plans of the diligent bring plenty, as sure as haste leads to poverty. Now, if you're honest with yourself, if we're all honest in this room today, online, wherever else it has been, haste has been the modus operandi for the better part of our lives. I gotta have it, I gotta have it now. The game starts in 2 hours. I need this TV before the game gets going. I have definitely bought a TV before some big event happened before. I have definitely bought a sound bar before people showed up at the house to watch TV, right? Like, there's no way I'm the only one, right? Somebody help me out. Wow. All right. I don't think I'm the only one. I think you're a bunch of liars. Plans of the diligent bring plenty, as sure as haste leads to poverty. If you're honest with yourself, haste has been the modus operandi. And haste has been what you've done, and you're probably not where you want to be, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're hovering around 1, 2. So now, here's what you've learned, right? I don't want to shame you. You didn't raise your hand, so maybe you're ashamed, maybe you're embarrassed, right? I don't want to shame you. I don't want to embarrass you about that. But here's what you know. Let's look at the bright side. You know that the second half of that doesn't work. Because haste has not led me to plenty. Haste has led me to poverty. I know the second half is true. I can attest to it. I know it's true. So how about the first part? Maybe that's true as well, if the second part is. And so that's what he's here. So he says, let's be diligent. Let's make a plan. And I don't mean, your plan should not be, hey, you know what? I'm going to sign for all this stuff. I'm going to get it delivered, and then I'm going to pray like crazy the rapture happens before the bill comes. That is not a good plan. If that's not a good plan. Right? A good plan is realizing that you can't get out of debt. I appreciate just the wholehearted laughter of some of you. A plan, let's settle down, right? A plan, it's my fault, it's my bad, I know. A plan is realizing that you cannot get out of debt if you keep digging yourself into it. You'll never get out if you keep signing. You keep swiping, you will never get out, right? So you cut your cards and you cut your excuses. Maybe literally you need to do those things. I'm not going to use them anymore. I'm going to stop making excuses for why I'm doing it. You understand the difference between need and greed? We blur those lines between something I need and something I want. And then we learn to say no to the things that are greed. Those are just some ideas, right? 3 quick, 4 quick, whatever it is. Some of this you're going to work out in your small groups this week. When you attend a small group this week, you're going to talk a little bit about debt. You're going to walk away with some good practices. You're going to walk away with some, hey, this didn't work. But if you don't, then you let me know, and I will send resources to you, and I will be involved as much or as little as you want. If you send a note anonymously and say, hey, I don't want anybody to know, I just want those resources, I will make them available publicly, and you just go grab them, and no one will ever know. If you're like, hey, I need someone to help me with this, then you let us know, and we'll figure that out as well. I want to help you find financial freedom in your life, because it is what Jesus wants for you. It is the best thing for his people. And so you're going to work some of that out in your small groups this week, right? But going back to the original verse, going back to the first one, Proverbs 22, the first part of the plan is this. The borrower is slave to the lender, right? So if you don't want to be a borrower, then you need to not be in debt to people. Then it probably would help if you just spent what you actually had. Cash is smart, right? That's what it says. Cash is smart. Here's what I want you to know. That means you pay for stuff outright. MIT did a study a few years back about the effects on the brain of using cash versus credit. Anybody read this article? Or am I the only one that reads this kind of stuff? Okay. What they discovered, I think, was really surprising. It was kind of eye-opening. I enjoyed it, right? First of all, they determined that the use of a credit card puts the cost of something out of your mind. When you use a credit card, it doesn't even really connect. Like, you know it's $59.99. You know it's $730, but it disconnects in your mind, the use of a credit card. They also found that that credit card purchases, the use of the credit card, activates the brain's reward center, the same part of your brain that gets affected by addictive substances. So what they said is that the act of swiping the credit card, you associate with pleasure. So you want to just keep doing it more. Right? That's kind of what they found. And then on the other hand, the study found that cash purchases do not activate the reward networks in the brain. Not only do they not, it's almost the exact opposite. The physical act of handling cash, pulling it out and opening up and seeing, Hamiltons and Benjamins and Franklins and whatever they are, I don't even know, right? But the physical act of handling cash and then handing it over to someone creates this conscious awareness of the money leaving your possession. And then it causes you to kind of like, whoa, wait. Now it hurts a little bit. Essentially, the act of paying cash creates a sense of pain. Like, all this stuff is really good information. All this stuff leads to and tells us that this is what he's getting at. The borrower is slave to the lender. So if we don't want to be a borrower, then we have to not borrow. It means we pay cash for stuff. Easier said than done. I get it. I'm not solving all the world's problems here. I'm just getting us started with the realization that maybe I don't have to run the rat race because it's just a bunch of rats running it anyway. I can do something different. So the second thing I want you to know, right? Cash is smart. Borrower, slave to lender. Cash is smart. And here's the other side. The opposite side of it is obviously this. Debt is dumb. right? That's just the way I wanted to word it. So I'm going to show you this. Think of something that you might buy with a signature. Don't yell it out. Don't holler it out. Think of something you might buy with a signature or your credit card. Something where you become a borrower and a slave to someone else. Someone else is responsible for the next bit of money that comes into your life. Maybe you know you're going to need a new hot water heater. Like that's us. We look at our hot water heater, we're like, it's probably going to go sooner rather than later. Right? Maybe you know you're going to need a hot water heater. You're going to need a refrigerator. A friend of mine just needed a refrigerator this week, right? You need a snowblower. You need a lawnmower. Or there's some other big ticket item that you know you're going to have to purchase. Rather than putting it on credit and then paying more in the long run over months and years, why don't you begin making those payments to yourself now? Right? Here's the thing. You already knew you were going to make the payments work. Right? That was already part of your stuff. I'll sign for it in a year, and I'll just make the payments work. It's going to be an extra $300. It's going to be an extra $200. It's going to be an extra $100. I'll make it work. If you were going to make it work in a year and an emergency, make it work today. There's no reason it can't. No reason it won't. So make them work before instead of after. Essentially, you lay the money aside now until you have enough to make the purchase. Right? Does anybody know what that's called? Like a long time ago. Layaway, right. We're not doing that anymore. What we do instead of layaway is lie awake. Oh, yes. I think I delivered that one really well. Oh, my goodness. I've had 8 weeks to work on this, right? Don't ever expect anything this good or bad again. All right, so here's what, but that makes sense. We know it makes sense, but we don't do it because it's just not. We'll cover that in a minute. But let's work this out with a new-to-you car, right? Cash smart, debt is dumb. Let's work this out with a new-to-you car. I am not trying to say the numbers that I'm going to give you here is your life. This is not indicative of your life. I don't have your FICO, whatever. I don't know any of those things. There are credit scores, there are rates, there are down payments, there are terms. All of this stuff affects your final number. What I wanted to show you is the principle. And I want you to work out the principle on your own with the purchase that you decide to make, right? So here's the math. Average used car as of like January, February 2025, right? So I just searched, right? Average used car, averages. Don't fuss at me if these are wrong. Again, you're missing the point if that's what you're going to have. Let's look at the process, right? Not the numbers, the process. Everybody gets that, right? Okay. Average used car is about $25,500, average used car. That means the average down payment is about $2,550. That means the average loan amount is about $22,905. The average loan length is about 69 months. The average monthly payment is $529. So if you take $529 and you multiply it by 69, you bought a $25,000 car and you paid, what's the last number? $39,000. How much was the car you bought? 25. How much did you spend on that car? How much is the car worth 6 years later? So you wasted $13,000. What could you do with $13,000? Does anybody need an extra $13,000? I'm not giving it out. But we all want an extra $13,000 because that's what we say. If I just had more money, then I wouldn't have the problems I have. You had $13,000, you decided to give it away. Just so you could drive around in something a little bit nicer right now. What if instead of signing on the dotted line and overpaying, which seems like a bad idea, argue with me if you want to, seems like a bad idea. What if you made the payments to yourself first? You took that $530 and made the payments to yourself first. How long did it take you to pay for it here? 69 months. You made the payments to yourself first. Do you know how long it would take you? 48 months. So as opposed to almost 7 years, it takes you 4. If you make the payments to yourself instead. And if you're making the payments to yourself instead, all of a sudden there's an emergency. They make $10,000 cars. I don't know if you knew that, but they do. You could spend something a little less. Also, if you took it and figured out how to do this, and you put it into like just an average brokerage account, it would take you 39 months. So now it's even less. Like there are better things to do than just moving into debt. Debt is dumb, but that's what we do all the time anyway. Either way, anyway. So check the math. I don't care. I don't mind. I'm not a mathematician, but I'm pretty sure I did have someone who knows math better than I do and had a calculator kind of check that. But the point is, I want you to apply that to whatever your situation is. When you sit down, look at the cost is this much. I'm going to put down this much or zero. And the interest rate is this, and so my payment is this. This is what they say. Hey, this is all your payments are. You can afford $500 a month. You can afford $400 a month. You can afford $300. That's a simple, easy payment because they don't want you to do the math and go, dang it, I paid how much for? So work the math, apply it to whatever your situation is. And I think what you're going to find, you may not like this answer, but I think what you're going to find is that you can't deny that this works. I think it absolutely works. And it just makes better long-term financial sense to do it this way rather than the other way. The world says this is the way you do it. And I think there's so many of us that just think, well, that sounds crazy. Absolutely. Because I'm asking you to delay gratification. I'm asking you to not ride around in the new car right now. I'm asking you to not drop the whatever on the whatever just so you have a better couch. I'm asking you to watch the game on your old TV because there's nothing wrong with it. But that's not how we're taught to live. We're taught everything around us says you can have it all and you can have it all right now. And so delayed gratification just does not sit well with us. But that's what this is. You are not going to take it home now and then pay for it later, pay more for it later. You're going to set it aside for now, and then you're going to bring it home and enjoy it later, and you're going to pay less in the process. Not what we want to do, but it's the smarter way to live. It's the more responsible way to live. The second reason you don't like this, I think, is because it's just not what people do. The Joneses aren't doing this. The Joneses swipe and then they move balances and they shuffle stuff over. Everybody else is. So we don't like it because this is just not what everyone else does. But here's the real reason that I think people don't recognize that cash is smart and that debt is dumb. Here's the real reason I think that people take on debt rather than taking on cash. Here's the real reason I think that people get into payments over and over again on stuff. Is because they just can't afford to do anything else. None of us has cash to buy anything outright because it all goes to someone else as soon as we get it. So our only option is just a little deeper into debt. Who cares? I can make the payment. What else am I going to do? The fact that we never ask, and the fact that we never answer that question is why we're continually in this constant cycle and this deadly loop that we're in. This constant cycle of acquiring more and more debt. This constant cycle of keeping ourselves enslaved to someone else. You own me for this car. You own me for this TV. You own me for this refrigerator. You own me for this snowblower. You own me for this purse that I bought that I shouldn't have ever done, and I don't even know where it is anymore. You owe me for these shoes that I left on the beach. Like, that's the way we've chosen to live life. Let me just take on more and more, because there is no way out. It's just get by today. Week 4 is how do I plan ahead, right? I'm going to leave that one. What do I do? Week 4, that's what you do. Maybe more than anything else, I think debt is a trap. We fall into it, we get snared into it, and then we cannot get out of it. The thing about traps is that nobody wants to get caught in a trap. Nobody wants to fall into something and not be able to get out. No one wants to get, their legs snapped on or whatever else it is. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what? I hope I can live to less than paycheck to paycheck. No one gets up and says, you know what? I hope I have a knockdown, drag out with my spouse about eating out today. No one says, you know what, I hope I lay awake every night and worry about money. No one says that. If you do, there's a bigger problem. But no one says that. That's not what any of us wants to do. But that is exactly what happens. One swipe, one signature, a couple of easy payments. We justify it that I'm going to pay it off early. Have you ever said that? We justify it, it's only 0% interest. We justify it, well, I deserve it after the year that I've had. We justify it, well, it's a good deal. I'd be a fool not to take advantage of it. Everything you've ever bought was a good deal. None of it actually ever was. How many times have you said something you bought you shouldn't have that was a good deal? We bought a 2003 Mazda Tribute back in 2005, right after Landon was born. And we had this car, and we had a double stroller because we had 2 kids, 15 months apart, right? This is not, I should know better. But anyway, 15 months apart, double stroller, and single stroller fit in the back of the car, double stroller did not. We're like, well, we need a bigger car. Like, that's a stupid reason to go buy a bigger car. That would have been, get rid of Landon. Thank you, Sid. Right? That's a dumb reason, but that's what we did. We're going to go buy another car. And you know what? We paid way too much for that car. Way too much for that car. It was a good car. We paid way too much for that car. But we know what we talk about when we pay for that car? We paid too much. But we also go, it was a good deal. Because it was a good car. Because we had it a long time. We justify it. We want it to make sense because we know this doesn't make sense. So we have to try and convince ourselves that it was a good idea. You'd be a fool not to get it. You're not going to get this car again. It was everything with color, engine size. It was everything we were looking for. She could care less. Color. I'm looking at the engine, right? It's everything we're looking for. We'd be a fool not to take advantage of it. We justify all of this thing. And then before you know it, you're in over your head. You're overextended. The money that you worked so hard for, the money that you wanted for your lifestyle, the money that you wanted so that you could provide for the kids and the family and do the things you want to do, you can't because it's owed to somebody else. I'm yelling again. I don't mean to. You can't. You can't live. You can't take care of. You can't love the people that you want to love because you have to send it to somebody else. And that's the way we've chosen to live. You have no money, we have no margin, we have no peace, and we have no purpose in life. We are stuck in jobs that we hate. We never see the people that we want to see, that we love, we want to spend time with. Our sole existence is to pay off debt. That's all we do. I work just so I can pay off debt. That is not living. That is not what Jesus has for us. That is not the way that God calls us and wants us to live. That is not the freedom that we're supposed to have as His. But that's how it all works. That's just normal. And you don't notice you're in the trap until it's too late. You fall in, it snaps closed, and you're done. Let me tell you this, and we're almost done. The only way that you escape from any trap, you got into it really quickly. It is not that simple to get out of it. You will not get out of it by doing that again. It takes time. It takes hard work. It takes dedication. It might even take chewing off a limb. Not literally. But it might take doing whatever it takes so that you can get out of whatever you're in. I think Jesus says something like that. If your eye causes you the problem, you pluck it out. It might take you doing whatever it takes to get out of it. But here's what I want you to remember, that we serve a God who loves us. We serve a God who sets us free. And we serve a God who provides for us a way out of everything that we find ourselves into. That's just what He does. So many of us are in that trap right now. There is stress, there is fear, there is pressure, and we just want it to be over. We just want to be free. We just want to be done with this part of it. You are not alone. 75 statistics would say 75% of us are probably in somewhat of that same boat. You are not alone. And listen. It is not hopeless. Did you hear that part? I want some acknowledgments. Yes, you heard that part, right? Because it's when we start feeling there's hopeless, there's nothing else, that we give up and that we quit. It's extraordinary pressure. It's really, really tough. You are not alone, and it is not hopeless. The same God who breaks chains, spiritual chains, breaks financial ones too. The good news is the world really looks at, can you afford this? Right? That's the credit stuff. God just says, I just want you to surrender. I just want you to stop doing it your way. I just want you to just hear me and just listen and just try another way. Just try it. Let's just see if it works. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close us in this prayer, and I want you to pray it. I'm going to say a couple words. You copy a couple words back, or you repeat a couple words back, and then I'll pray, and the worship team will come up, and we'll kind of close, and we'll go from there. But here's what I want you. Here's what I want you to do. You can repeat these words or not repeat these words. You can stand up. I'm going to ask you to stand up. Don't do it yet because I don't want you standing forever. I'm going to ask you to stand up. You cannot. You can sit. I'm not doing that, what he says. I'm going to ask you to repeat the words. You cannot. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to make you. But if any of this stuff has made any sense to you, then it might behoove you to go, you know what, maybe I should try something a little bit different. So I want us to pray this prayer together. Some of you will mean it, some of you won't. But for those of you that mean it, this is the first step to you finding that freedom that Jesus has already come to give you. So stand if you would and repeat after me. Close your eyes, we're going to pray. This is prayer. God, I am tired of being trapped. That's y'all's part. God, I'm tired of being trapped. I'm ready to try something different when it comes to my finances, my habits, my heart. Show me the way out. Teach me how to live free. Help me to honor you with all that you've given me. Amen. Lord, we're grateful for this opportunity to be in your house, to be in your presence. Lord, we're grateful that you are a God that loves us deeply. Lord, we are grateful that you are a God that wants the best for us. We're grateful that you're a God that looks down on us and says, I want better for them. I want more for them. I don't want them to live in the bondage of the things that they lived in bondage to. I don't want them to live as a slave to someone else. I came to set them free from all things. I don't want to set them free from sin and have them get hung up by a signature. So, Lord, thank you that you care that deeply about us. It doesn't make the debt that I'm in go away, but it changes my perspective on it. It takes me from just going, well, this is just the way it is, to going, this is not how I'm supposed to be. And when we have that realization, then we begin to do, that's when we can begin to do something different. That's when we can begin to make the changes in our lives that line us more with what you have for us. What we want to be free of financial burden. The money that we work so hard for to actually be ours. To not be claimed before we ever even get it. To have a job just because I have a payment. That is not the life we're called to live. And so, Lord, I thank you for this moment. Me personally. Because I believe in this last 30 to 40 minutes, Lord, that you have set someone free and set them on the path to living out that freedom. Every step from here on out gets a little bit harder. But in the end, you'll be living the life that you want. You'll be living the life that God wants for you. And so I would encourage you, keep seeking the Lord in it. Keep asking for his guidance. Keep connecting with the body of believers who have walked through those things before. Keep connecting with the ones who can say, here's a good idea, here's a bad practice. Keep connecting with the ones who will say, don't make that purchase. Lord, help us to live a life of delayed gratification. Help us to be content. So that we can be better off and better followers of you before our time here is done. Lord, I'm just grateful. Lord, each and every moment for your love and your grace and your mercy in my life, the ways I recognize it, the ways that I don't. God, you are mighty. When I'm left on my own, I mess it up. But you always call me out. You always bring me out. And this is no different. So, Lord, we glorify you with our prayer, with our words, but with our life. So that's really all I can do. I can talk about it. I can say all that stuff. I can scream. I can holler. I can make you laugh. I can keep you engaged and connected. That's all I can do. Now it's on you to do something else. What is your next step this week? What is your next step this week? Let me give you a couple. Small groups are meeting all week. You want to talk about this a little more? Then get engaged in one of those and talk a little more about it. You want to argue with me about how I'm wrong? Mine is Wednesday nights at 6. Come on. 6:30, right. Dang it. I don't know what time it is. Again, I just show up for stuff. I was giving you 30 minutes to get there ahead of time, and then you'd get all your tears out and you could leave if you needed to. Small group. That's a good next step. Just stop signing for a little while. Maybe whatever you were going to plan this week, maybe hold off a little bit. Maybe find a different way to come up with that. Maybe be content with the thing that you had. If you haven't come up with a plan for doing it, come up with one. If you have a plan, you don't stick to it, stick to it. Lastly, and this might be the biggest one of all, just invite Jesus into this part of your life. Because he wants the best for you. He wants more for you than you want for you. So give him some say. Involve him in your life. Let him lead you to the freedom that you so desperately want, because it's what he so desperately has for you. Have a great week. See you next Sunday, on site, online. I'm sure about this time, 10 a.m.